The crystal wine glasses clinked with false cheer as Clara raised her hand for a toast. 15 pairs of eyes turned toward her, but I kept mine fixed on my husband Colin's face. He wouldn't look at me. That's when I knew this wasn't just another Fowler family dinner. I'm Chelsea, and until 6 weeks ago I thought I had it all. Loving husband, beautiful daughter, supportive in-laws, and a father-in-law who treated me like his own daughter. Then Arthur died suddenly and everything changed. To family, Clara announced, her perfectly manicured hand gripping the stem of her glass, and to making difficult decisions for those we love. The dining room fell silent. Even my 6-year-old daughter Sadie, usually chattering about school, sat unnaturally still beside me. "Chelsea, dear," Clara's voice dripped honey-coated poison. "We've gathered everyone here because we're concerned. Deeply concerned." I set down my fork. "Concerned about what?" Colin finally met my eyes. "About you, honey. Your behaviour since Dad died. It's not normal." "Not normal?" My voice stayed steady, even as my hands began to shake under the table. "The crying fits," Clara interjected. "The paranoia, the way you've been keeping Sadie from us. Colin tells me you barely let him near her anymore." I stared at my husband. "That's not true. That's absolutely not." "You see?" Colin turned to the table. "She's getting defensive again, just like when she accused me of going through Dad's study last week. Because I'd caught him there at midnight, rifling through Arthur's papers. But I stayed quiet, watching this choreographed performance unfold. "We've spoken to professionals," Clara continued, pulling out a manila envelope. "They agree that in cases like this, temporary guardianship arrangements are often necessary." The room spun. "Guardianship? For Sadie," Colin said softly. "Just until you're better. Mom has already filed the paperwork." Sabrina, Colin's cousin, spoke up from the far end of the table. "Isn't this a bit extreme? Chelsea seems fine to me." "You don't see her behind closed doors," Clara said. "The outbursts, the accusations, the instability. Arthur's death has triggered something concerning." I looked at my daughter, who was studying her plate with fierce concentration. They'd gotten to her already, I realised. Told her God knows what about Mommy being sick. "And, of course," Clara added, sliding another document across the table, "given Chelsea's current state, we'll need to revisit the matter of Arthur's will, for everyone's protection." The pieces clicked into place. Arthur's estate, the trust fund he'd set up for Sadie, the beach house he'd mentioned leaving to me, much to Clara's barely concealed fury. "I see." I picked up my wineglass, studying the red liquid. "So this is an intervention, or a coup?" "Chelsea," Colin warned, "you're proving our point." I smiled, and several people at the table shifted uncomfortably. "No, I understand perfectly. You've gathered witnesses, prepared documents, probably even have someone taking notes. Very thorough." "We love you," Clara insisted. "We just want you to get help." I stood slowly, placing my napkin beside my plate. "Sadie, sweetheart, go get your coat." "She's staying here," Colin said firmly. "No, she's not." I met his gaze. "Unless you want to physically stop me from taking my daughter home, in front of everyone, with cameras rolling." I tapped my phone, which had been propped against the water glass, recording everything. Clara's face tightened. "You see, paranoid behaviour, recording family dinners. Maybe," I helped Sadie with her coat. "Or maybe I learned from Arthur. He was quite fond of recording things too, wasn't he, Clara?" The wineglass in her hand trembled slightly. "Just enough." "Chelsea," Colin stood, "don't make this difficult." "Oh, I won't." I took Sadie's hand. "But you might want to wait before filing those guardianship papers. The judge might be interested in some other recordings first." "What recordings?" Clara's voice had lost its honey. I headed for the door, pausing only briefly. "I guess you'll find out. After all, family secrets have a way of coming to light, don't they?" As I buckled Sadie into her car seat, my hands were steady. They thought they'd cornered a grieving, unstable woman. They didn't know what I'd found in Arthur's study last week, hidden behind a false drawer panel. They didn't know what I'd spent 6 sleepless nights watching, but they would. Oh, they would. 6 days earlier, I'd stood in Arthur's study, surrounded by the lingering scent of his pipe tobacco and leather-bound books. The lawyers wanted everything catalogued before the will reading, but I couldn't bring myself to dismantle the sanctuary where my father-in-law had taught Sadie to play chess just weeks ago. "Mom!" Sadie appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed giraffe. "Are you crying again?" I wiped my eyes quickly. "Just dusty in here, baby. Why don't you go watch TV while I finish up? Grandma Clara says crying means you're sick." My hand froze on Arthur's desk. "When did she say that?" "Yesterday. She said you might need to go away to get better, like when Daddy had his special vacation." Colin's special vacation had been a stint in rehab 5 years ago, something we'd never discussed with Sadie. I forced a smile. Grandma Clara shouldn't worry you with grown-up things." After tucking Sadie in with her favourite bedtime story, I returned to the study. Something about her words nagged at me. Clara had been unusually interested in my emotional state lately, asking the household staff to keep an eye on me. I began methodically emptying Arthur's desk drawers, tax documents, birthday cards, a half-finished letter to his sister. The bottom drawer stuck slightly, and when I pulled harder, something rattled behind it. Removing the drawer completely, I found a small hard drive taped to the back panel. My heart pounded as I turned it over, finding a sticky note in Arthur's precise handwriting. Insurance policy, C&C, Clara and Colin. I grabbed my laptop and plugged in the drive. Dozens of video files appeared, labelled by date. The earliest was from 3 months ago. The first video showed Arthur's study from a high angle, a hidden camera in the bookshelf. Clara and Colin sat in the leather chairs, unaware they were being recorded. "She's too unstable to handle the inheritance," Clara was saying. "Arthur's getting soft in his old age, talking about leaving her the beach house." Colin sighed. "Dad's always had a blind spot when it comes to Chelsea. We need to act before he changes the will. I've spoken to Dr. Reynolds. He'll backdate a psychiatric evaluation. All we need is for Chelsea to show some concerning behaviour." "And how do we manage that?" Clara's laugh sent chills down my spine. "Darling, a few switched medications, some carefully placed concerns with the staff. You'd be amazed how quickly someone can appear unstable when everyone's watching for it." My hands shook as I opened file after file. Clara and Colin plotting, planning, discussing how to manipulate my prescription for anxiety medication, strategizing about using Sadie to prove I was an unfit mother. "Mom," Sadie's voice made me jump. "I had a bad dream." I slammed the laptop shut. "Coming, sweetie." The next morning I called my oldest friend, Greta. As a family attorney, she'd know what to do. "Jesus Christ," she muttered, watching the footage in her office. "They've been setting you up for months." "I need to protect Sadie." My voice cracked. "They're already poisoning her against me." Greta tapped her pen against her desk. "We need to verify these recordings are authentic before we use them. I know someone, Joshua. He's a forensic IT expert. Can we trust him?" "With my life," she leaned forward. "Chelsea, this is bigger than just the inheritance. They were planning to drug you. That's criminal." "Arthur knew." I stared at my hands. "He knew, and instead of confronting them, he just recorded everything. He was building you a case." Greta squeezed my shoulder. "He knew they'd come after you when he was gone." That evening, I found another file hidden deeper in the drive. Arthur's face filled the screen, recorded just 2 weeks before his death. "Chelsea," he said, looking tired but determined. "If you're watching this, they've already moved against you. I should have stopped them years ago, but I was a coward. Clara's poison runs deep, and she's turned Colin into her puppet. But you're stronger than they know, smarter. The recordings are your shield. Use them wisely." He paused, removing his glasses. "Protect my granddaughter and Chelsea. Make them regret ever underestimating you. I closed the laptop, Arthur's words echoing in my head. In the next room, I could hear Sadie singing to herself, blissfully unaware of the war brewing around her. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara. Family dinner tomorrow, non-negotiable. We need to discuss your recent behaviour. I smiled at the screen. They thought they were staging an intervention. They had no idea they were walking into their own trap. Game on, I whispered to Arthur's empty study. Game on. These recordings are gold, Joshua said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Timestamps, metadata, audio quality, all authentic, no signs of manipulation. We sat in Greta's home office, take-out containers pushed aside to make room for multiple laptops. It was 2 a.m., but none of us felt like sleeping. Can they claim Arthur recorded them illegally? I asked. Greta shook her head. Single-party consent state. Plus, it was his house, his study. He had every right to record. Joshua looked up from his screen. I've backed everything up to 3 secure cloud locations. Even if they somehow get to your copy, they can't bury this. Speaking of burying things, Greta said, I did some digging into Dr. Reynolds, the psychiatrist Clara mentioned. Guess who sits on the board of his private practice? Clara? Through a shell company, but yes, she's been making substantial donations for years. My phone buzzed. A text from Colin. Where are you? It's late. Come home. Don't respond, Greta advised. Let him sweat. I showed them the message. He's never cared about my whereabouts before. Because before he thought he had you under control. Joshua grabbed another spring roll. Now you've got them spooked. That dinner recording was just your opening move. We need to be strategic about the next steps, Greta said, pulling out a legal pad. The will reading is in 8 days. That's our deadline. Joshua raised an eyebrow. Why wait? We have enough to destroy them now. Because, I said, we need witnesses. The family needs to see who they really are. Greta nodded. Exactly. Clara's spent years crafting her image as the perfect family matriarch. We need to shatter that illusion publicly. My phone buzzed again. Colin, Mum's worried about you. Please come home. We can talk. They're trying to paint you as unstable, Joshua observed. Staying out late, not answering messages. They'll use that. Let them. I smiled. Every accusation they make, we'll have a video showing them planning it. Greta started writing. First, we need to secure Sadie. They might try to take her before the will reading. Already handled. I pulled out papers from my bag. I picked her up from school early and dropped her at my sister's in Connecticut. Left Colin a note saying we're having a girls' weekend. Smart, Joshua whistled. He can't claim kidnapping since you're still married and there's no custody order. Clara will be furious, Greta said. She hates not having control of Sadie. Good. I felt a cold satisfaction. Let her get sloppy. Let her make mistakes. Joshua finished his work on the laptop and turned it toward me. I've compiled the most damning clips into a sequence. Watch. The screen showed Clara and Colin in various meetings, their masks slipping in what they thought were private moments. She's weak, Clara spat in one clip, just like her mother was. We'll break her easily. Another clip. Colin laughing with Clara. Once we get custody of Sadie, Chelsea will have nothing. No money, no daughter, no status. She'll probably run back to whatever middle-class hole she crawled out of. Charming, Greta muttered. Your husband's quite the prince. I watched my husband of 8 years plot my destruction with his mother, and felt nothing. The pain had burned away, leaving only purpose. One more thing, Joshua said. I found something interesting in the metadata. There are gaps in the recording dates, specific days when the camera was turned off. What days? Greta asked. He pulled up a calendar, including the day Arthur died. The room went silent. Are you suggesting... I couldn't finish the sentence. I'm not suggesting anything, Joshua said carefully, but Arthur was in perfect health. and Clara stood to lose a lot if he changed his will. Greta's pen stopped moving. That would explain why she's moving so fast to discredit Chelsea. If there's evidence... One battle at a time, I interrupted. First, we protect Sadie. Then we expose their plans. After that, I looked at the frozen image of Clara on the screen. After that, we'll see what other secrets come to light. My phone buzzed one final time. Clara, your behaviour is becoming concerning. Colin and I expect you home immediately. Don't force us to take action. I showed the others. They're planning something. Let them, Greta said, a fierce glint in her eye. Every move they make now is just more evidence against them. Speaking of evidence, Joshua closed his laptop with a satisfied smile. Wait until they see what's playing at the will reading. For the first time since Arthur died, I felt truly powerful. They thought they were hunting a wounded animal. They didn't realise they'd awakened a warrior. When we're done, Greta smirked, Clara will wish she'd never picked up a wine glass in that study. I raised my coffee cup. To Arthur, he gave us the weapons. Now we'll finish what he started. More tea, Sabrina? I kept my voice steady as I poured for Colin's cousin. She'd arrived under the pretence of discussing Arthur's memorial service, but I could see the questions in her eyes. Thanks. She glanced around the living room. It's quiet without Sadie. She's having a wonderful time with her aunt. I sat down, noting how Sabrina's gaze lingered on the family photos. Though Clara seems to think I've spirited her away to a cult compound. Sabrina snorted, then caught herself. Sorry, it's just... Clara can be a bit... dramatic. I was going to say intense. She stirred her tea. The things she's been saying about you... I set down my cup. Would you like to know what she's been saying when she thinks no one's listening? Sabrina's spoon stopped mid-stir. What do you mean? Without a word, I opened my laptop and played the first clip. Clara's voice filled the room. Once we get rid of Chelsea, we'll need to distance Sadie from her mother's side completely. Can't have those common influences ruining what we've built. Sabrina's face paled. When was this? 2 months ago. Here's last month. I clicked another file. Colin appeared on screen, lounging in Arthur's study. Dad's getting suspicious. He asked about Chelsea's medication changes. Medication changes? Sabrina looked confused. Keep watching. Clara's voice. Don't worry about Arthur. I've handled him for 40 years. Besides, his heart isn't what it used to be. I stopped the video. Sabrina sat frozen, tea forgotten. There's more, I said quietly. Much more, but I think you get the idea. Chelsea... She set down her cup with shaking hands. Are you saying they... I'm not saying anything. I'm just showing you what Arthur recorded. Arthur recorded this? I nodded. He knew what they were planning. He left these for me to find. Sabrina stood abruptly, pacing the room. The family meeting yesterday, that whole intervention, was orchestrated by Clara and Colin months ago. They needed witnesses to my unstable behaviour. Oh, God! She stopped at the window. The way Clara's been asking everyone to document their concerns about you. My phone buzzed. A text from Colin. Where's my daughter? Mum's consulting lawyers. Let me guess, Sabrina said, watching my face. They're threatening legal action. They've been building their case for months. I showed her another clip, this one showing Clara and Colin discussing their plans with Dr. Reynolds. I feel sick, Sabrina whispered. I've known Colin since we were kids. I never thought... Money changes people, or maybe it just reveals who they really are. She turned to me. What are you going to do? Protect my daughter, clear my name. After that, I shrugged. Justice has a way of finding people. The will reading is in 5 days, Sabrina said. Is that when... You'll want to be there. I closed the laptop. Front row seats to Clara's carefully constructed world, crumbling. Chelsea... Her voice was hesitant. That comment about Arthur's heart. You don't think... My phone buzzed again, this time an anonymous email. R.E. Patient Records. Dr. Reynolds' office. Attached was a psychiatric evaluation dated 3 months ago, one I'd never had. "Look at this," I showed Sabrina the forged document. "That's impossible," she said. "You were with me that day. We took the kids to the zoo." "I know, and now I have proof they're fabricating medical records." I forwarded the email to Greta. Sabrina grabbed her purse. "I need to make some calls. There are family members who should know about this before the will reading." "Sabrina?" I caught her arm. "Be careful. Clara has eyes everywhere." "Don't worry about me." Her face hardened. "I always knew she was cruel, but this is criminal." After she left, I received another anonymous email. This one contained internal hospital records showing Clara had submitted false psychiatric reports to Child Protective Services weeks ago. I called Greta immediately. "Got it," she answered. "Joshua's tracing the source. But Chelsea, there's something else. The hospital records from the day Arthur died. They're missing. Missing. Completely wiped. Someone with high-level access cleared them from the system." I thought of Clara's words on the recording. "His heart isn't what it used to be." "Keep digging," I said. "Something tells me we're just scratching the surface of what Clara's capable of." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. A storm was coming, in more ways than one. My phone lit up with a final text from Clara. "You're playing a dangerous game, dear. Remember who taught Colin everything he knows about destroying people." I smiled at the threat. "Game on, Clara," I whispered. "Game on." The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. I arrived at 8:30 to find Colin and Clara already there, huddled with their attorney. Colin wore his best concerned husband expression, the same one he'd used when explaining his rehab stint to business partners. "Mrs. Richardson," a court clerk approached, "Judge Martinez will see all parties in chambers first." Clara smirked as we filed into the judge's office. Her smugness faded when she saw Greta beside me carrying a laptop. "Your Honour," Colin's attorney began, "we're seeking emergency temporary custody due to the mother's increasingly erratic behaviour. Most recently, she disappeared with the child for 3 days." "I took my daughter to visit my sister," I said calmly. "I left a note." "After displaying concerning episodes," Colin interjected. "Just last week she had a complete breakdown, throwing things, making wild accusations." Judge Martinez raised an eyebrow. "When exactly did this episode occur?" "Last Tuesday, around 8 p.m, Colin said confidently. "I have witnesses." "Your Honour," Greta spoke up, "we'd like to present some relevant footage from that evening." She opened her laptop, turning it toward the judge. The video showed Colin and Clara in Arthur's study last Monday. "We'll say it happened Tuesday night," Clara was saying. "Margaret and Thomas will confirm they heard shouting. You'll need to be convincing. Throw something, make it sound violent." "And Chelsea?" Colin asked. "She has yoga class Tuesday evenings. Perfect timing. She'll never be able to prove she wasn't there." The judge's face darkened. "Is this authenticated?" "Yes, Your Honour. We have the full technical analysis here, along with evidence that Mr. Richardson and his mother have been systematically fabricating incidents to build this custody case." Clara stood up. "That recording is clearly doctored." "Sit down, Mrs. Fowler," Judge Martinez snapped. "Mr. Richardson, are you aware that falsifying evidence in a custody hearing is a criminal offence?" Colin's face went pale. We were just concerned." "Your Honour," Greta continued, "we also have evidence of Mrs. Fowler submitting falsified medical records to CPS." "These are outrageous accusations," Clara's voice rose. "Chelsea is clearly manipulating." "Would you like to see yourself discussing these false reports with Dr. Reynolds?" I asked sweetly. "Arthur's camera caught that conversation too." The judge held up her hand. "I've seen enough. The emergency custody petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into these allegations of evidence tampering." "But Sadie needs protection." Clara stood again. "Chelsea is..." "Mrs. Fowler," Judge Martinez cut in. "The only person my clerk will be calling for protection is the district attorney. You and your son may want to seek criminal defense attorneys." In the hallway afterward, Colin grabbed my arm. "How long have you had those recordings?" I pulled away. "Long enough to know exactly who you are." "You bitch," Clara hissed. "You think you've won? We still have the will reading tomorrow. You'll get nothing." "Clara," I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Did Arthur have nothing to say about his heart condition in those study recordings, the ones from the day he died?" Her face went ashen. "The missing hospital records," I continued. "The convenient timing of his death, right before he changed his will. It would be terrible if those recordings surfaced." "Are you threatening me?" Her voice trembled. "No, Clara, I'm promising you. Back off, or everything comes out. Everything." Colin looked between us, realization dawning. "Mom, what is she talking about?" "Nothing," Clara snapped. "She's bluffing." "Am I?" I turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Colin, check your email. I sent you the footage of your mother discussing your special vacation from 5 years ago. Interesting how she knew about your relapse before it happened." I walked away as Colin turned to his mother, his voice rising. "What did you do?" Greta caught up with me at the elevator. "That was beautiful. But you didn't actually send him anything about the rehab." "No," I smiled. "But Clara doesn't know that. Let her spend the night wondering which secrets I really have." My phone buzzed. A text from Sabrina. "Family's talking. Nobody's buying Clara's story anymore. See you at the will reading tomorrow." "Ready for the final act?" Greta asked. I thought of Arthur's last recording, the one I hadn't shown anyone yet. The one where he detailed exactly why he'd started recording his wife and son. "More than ready," I said. "It's time everyone knew the truth about the great Clara Fowler." "And Colin," I watched my husband through the glass doors, still arguing with his mother. "He made his choice long ago. Tomorrow he lives with it." The elevator doors closed on the scene and I felt nothing but calm. The storm was almost over, and I was no longer afraid of the lightning. The law firm's conference room was packed. Every Fowler family member who could claim even a distant connection to Arthur had shown up for the will reading. Clara sat at the head of the table like a queen holding court, though I noticed her hands shaking slightly as she lifted her water glass. Marquis Arthur's estate attorney cleared his throat. "Before we begin, there's a video message from Arthur that he requested be played first." Clara's water glass froze halfway to her lips. "A video? This wasn't mentioned before." "It was in his private instructions to me." Marquis pressed play on the large screen mounted on the wall. Arthur's face appeared, recorded in his study just weeks before his death. He looked directly into the camera, his eyes sharp and clear. "If you're watching this, I'm dead. And I suspect it wasn't entirely natural causes." The room erupted in whispers. Clara's face went white. "For years, I watched my wife and son manipulate, scheme, and destroy anyone they saw as a threat to their control of this family. I was a coward. I did nothing. But I did record everything." Colin stood up. "This is ridiculous. Turn it off." "Sit down, Mr. Fowler," Marquis said firmly. "This is a legal requirement of the will reading." On screen, Arthur continued, "Chelsea, my dear daughter-in-law, I know they're targeting you now. That's why I left you the means to fight back. Marquis, please play compilation file A." The screen switched to dozens of quick clips. Clara and Colin plotting to drug me, fabricating evidence, discussing Arthur's convenient death, planning to take Sadie. "Oh my God," someone gasped. "You evil witch," Sabrina stood pointing at Clara. "You were going to drug her." Clara rose, trembling. "These are obviously fake." "They're authenticated," Marquis interrupted, "as is the footage of you discussing Arthur's heart medication with Dr. Reynolds the day before he died." The room fell silent. Colin turned to his mother, horror dawning on his face. Mom, what did you do to Dad? Nothing, Clara's voice rose hysterically. He was sick, his heart was fine, I cut in. According to his last physical, the records you tried to delete from the hospital system, Greta recovered them yesterday. You can't prove anything, Clara snarled. Actually, Marcus pressed another button. Arthur left quite detailed proof, including this conversation from the day before he died. The screen showed Clara in Arthur's study, unaware she was being recorded. Just take the pills, Arthur. You're becoming a liability. Chelsea's turning you against us, and I won't let you destroy everything I've built. Arthur's voice, weak but clear. By medicating me into compliance, like you did to Colin during his rehab. Colin jumped up. What? Sit down, Clara screamed, but the video continued. I know you switched my heart medication, Arthur said, just like you're planning to do to Chelsea. It ends now, Clara. You're right. Clara's recorded voice was cold. It ends today. The video stopped. The silence in the room was deafening. Mrs. Fowler, Marquis said quietly, the police are waiting outside. They've seen all of this footage. Clara looked around wildly, then lunged for the door. 2 officers stepped in before she could reach it. Clara Fowler, you're under arrest for the suspected murder of Arthur Fowler, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted medical abuse. As they led her away, she shrieked, Colin, tell them I did it all for you. But Colin stood frozen, staring at the screen where the evidence of his mother's manipulation of his own life played out. There's more, Marquis announced once Clara was gone. Arthur's final will provisions. He opened an envelope. To my son Colin, I leave nothing but the truth of your mother's control over your life. The rehabilitation centre has provided records of her orchestrating your dependency to keep you under her influence. Colin sank into his chair, face ashen. To Chelsea, Marquis continued, I leave full custody of Sadie, the beach house, and controlling interest in Fowler Industries. You were the daughter I wished I'd had, and the only one strong enough to end Clara's reign of terror. This is insane, Colin stammered. You can't just... I can and did. Arthur's voice came from the screen one final time. Chelsea, protect our Sadie and Colin. Get help. Real help this time, without your mother's poison. The family began filing out, many stopping to hug me or whisper apologies for believing Clara's lies. Colin remained seated, staring into space. Chelsea, he whispered as I passed, did you know about Mom and my rehab? Arthur left me everything, Colin, including the truth about what she did to both of you. He covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. I paused at the door. Get clean, Colin, really clean. Then maybe you can have supervised visits with Sadie. As I left, I heard him crying. Real tears, perhaps, for the first time since his mother had started controlling his life. It was over. We had won. The preliminary hearing for Clara's case took exactly 47 minutes. I sat in the back of the courtroom, watching her designer suit and perfectly coiffed hair, a stark contrast to the handcuffs around her wrists. How do you plead? The judge asked. Clara lifted her chin. Not guilty, Your Honour. Next to me, Greta scribbled notes. They'll offer a plea deal, she whispered. The evidence is too strong. The prosecutor presented the basics. Tampered medication, falsified medical records, conspiracy to commit fraud, and the mounting evidence about Arthur's death. Clara's expensive attorney looked increasingly uncomfortable as each piece of evidence was laid out. Bail is denied, the judge announced. The defendant has both means and motivation to flee. Clara turned as they led her away, her eyes finding mine. You ungrateful little... The rest was cut off as the bailiff guided her through the side door. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Mrs. Richardson, how does it feel to inherit Fowler Industries? Is it true your mother-in-law tried to have you committed? Any comment on Colin Fowler's admission to rehab? I pushed through them to where Sabrina waited with my car. She'd become an unexpected ally through all this. helping manage the family fallout. "The board meeting's in an hour," she said as we drove. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be." The Fowler Industries boardroom fell silent as I entered. These men had known Clara for decades, had watched her manipulate her way to power. Now they watched me, the outsider who'd brought it all crashing down. "Gentlemen," I took my seat at the head of the table, "let's discuss the future of this company." "Mrs. Richardson," one board member spoke up, "with all due respect, you have no experience. I have an MBA from Wharton and ran my own marketing firm before marriage," I cut in. "What I don't have is a history of enabling Clara's corruption. Now, shall we review the quarterly projections?" 3 hours later, I'd outlined my vision for the company's future, approved 2 new environmental initiatives Arthur had wanted, and replaced Clara's most loyal supporters on the board. My phone buzzed, a text from Colin's new rehab facility. "Mr. Fowler has authorized us to update you on his progress. Initial detox successful, beginning therapy." "Good news?" Sabrina asked as we left. "Colin's actually trying this time, without Clara's interference." "Speaking of interference," she handed me an envelope. "The police found this in Arthur's personal safe. It's addressed to you." I waited until I was alone in Arthur's old office, my office now, to open it. "Dear Chelsea, if you're reading this, the truth has finally come out. Clara's in custody, Colin's facing his demons, and you're probably sitting at my desk wondering what comes next. I knew from the day Colin brought you home that you were different. Clara saw it too. That's why she feared you. You couldn't be bought, couldn't be broken. I'm sorry I didn't stop her sooner. I watched her destroy lives, including my son's, and said nothing. But I knew you would be strong enough to end it. The company is yours now. Run it with the integrity I lost somewhere along the way. And Sadie, protect her from becoming what this family creates. There's one last recording you should watch, bottom drawer, red USB drive. It's not for the police or the lawyers. It's for you to understand. With love and faith, Arthur." The red USB drive contained a single video file. Arthur, looking tired but peaceful, recorded the day before he died. "Chelsea, my dear, by now you know Clara's been tampering with my medication. I could have stopped her, could have called the police, but this way she'll finally face justice for everything. My death will be her downfall. It's a terrible thing, using one's own death as a weapon. But I'm dying anyway. The cancer would have taken me in months. At least this way my death has purpose. It gives you the power to protect Sadie, to save Colin, to end Clara's reign. Forgive an old man's manipulation. I learned from the best, after all." The video ended. I sat in Arthur's chair, my chair, as the sun set over the city. My phone buzzed again. Sadie's therapist. Breakthrough today. She talked about missing her grandfather. I touched the frame on my desk, Arthur's smiling face looking back at me. "Well played, old man," I whispered. "Well played." A knock at the door. Greta with more papers to sign. The company wouldn't run itself. Clara's empire was mine now, but I'd rebuild it into something Arthur would have been proud of. Something worthy of the sacrifice he'd made to bring justice to us all. The lake house windows reflected the autumn sunset as I unpacked the last box. Sadie's laughter drifted in from outside, where she was helping Sabrina rake leaves into piles. "Mum, come look what we made!" I stepped onto the deck to see an enormous leaf pile, with my daughter's beaming face poking out the top. For the first time in months, her smile reached her eyes. My phone buzzed. "Greta, jury's back. Guilty on all counts. Clara got 25 years. I watched Sadie jump into another pile of leaves before responding. How did she take it? Still claiming she did it all for family. Colin testified against her yesterday. That sealed it. Speaking of Colin, I dialed his rehab centre's number. "Mrs. Richardson," his counsellor answered. "Colin's doing well, 6 months sober. He'd like to speak with you about supervised visitation. Put him on?" A moment of static then. "Chelsea!" His voice was different, clearer, without the artificial charm he'd learned from Clara. "I heard about Mom's verdict," he said. "Are you okay?" "Better than okay. I'm finally free." He paused. "The therapist helped me understand how she programmed me since childhood. The drugs, the manipulation, everything. And now I want to meet my daughter again. The real me, meeting the real her. If you'll let me." I watched Sadie playing, remembering Arthur's words about protection and redemption. "We'll start with 1 hour, supervised by Greta," I said. "If that goes well, we'll see." "Thank you," he whispered. "And Chelsea, I'm sorry for everything." After hanging up, I joined Sabrina on the deck. "Hard to believe it's really over." She handed me a coffee. "Clara's locked up, Colin's healing, the company's thriving. Arthur would be proud." Speaking of Arthur, I pulled out the letter he'd left in the lake house. "Listen to this. Chelsea, the lake house was always my sanctuary from Clara's schemes. Now it's yours and Sadie's, a place where the poison of power and greed can't reach, where my granddaughter can just be a child, not an heir to an empire." "He thought of everything," Sabrina mused. "Not everything." I showed her my laptop screen. "I still have all the recordings. Part of me wants to delete them, start fresh. Another part wants insurance, wants remembrance of how easy it is to become Clara, of why we fought so hard." Sadie ran up, leaves in her hair. "Mum, can we have hot chocolate with marshmallows like Grandpa Arthur used to make?" "Of course, baby. Want to help?" In the kitchen, Sadie stood on her step stool, carefully counting marshmallows. "Mom, is it okay that I still miss Grandpa, even though he kept secrets?" "He kept secrets to protect us," I said. "Sometimes love looks like that, like how you protected me from Grandma Clara." I stopped stirring. "How did you know?" "I heard her, before, telling Dad how to make you go away." She dropped another marshmallow in her cup. "But I knew you wouldn't. You're stronger than her. We both are, baby." My phone lit up. A message from Marky. "Final paperwork filed. Clara's shares transferred to Sadie's trust. You're officially CEO." I closed my laptop with the recordings, leaving them saved but sealed. A reminder, not a weapon. Outside, the lake reflected the last rays of sun. This house, this sanctuary Arthur created, would be our fresh start, not forgetting but moving forward. "Mom," Sadie called from the deck, "tell me the story again about how Grandpa Arthur left us clues like a treasure hunt." I smiled, remembering Arthur's final recording. "Use your power wisely, Chelsea, not for revenge, but for renewal." "Actually," I said, joining her with our hot chocolate, "let me tell you a different story. About a grandfather who loved his family so much, he orchestrated his own ending to give them a new beginning." Sadie curled against me, safe and whole. Below us, leaves danced across the lake's surface, carrying away the last whispers of Clara's legacy. My phone buzzed one final time. Colin. "Thank you for giving me a chance to know my daughter again, the real me, the real her, the real us." I looked at Sadie, then at the peaceful lake, and finally at the laptop holding our painful past. "Delete recordings," the screen prompted. "No," I whispered, closing the file. "Keep them, as a map of where we've been, and why we'll never go back." The future stretched before us, as clear and bright as the lake at dawn,